I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. A pope away from home with a busy schedule on his trip to Portugal, including an historic trip to Fatima. We'll have that story and the secrets. We'll also sit down with a Fatima expert for some expert insight.
The message of Fatima is more important now than it was even in 1917.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. It will be history in the making as Pope Benedict will travel to Portugal this week, with the centerpiece of his journey being a visit to the Shrine of the Virgin Mary at Fatima.
That's right. The Pope will also visit some other cities, including the nation's capital, Lisbon, during his trip. Tonight, we kick off this week of coverage of the Pope's trip with a special edition of Currents, beginning with this look at the Pope's itinerary from Marissa Cabrera of Rome Reports.
Benedict XVI will visit Portugal for the first time as Pope from May 11th to the 14th, 10 years after the last papal visit to this country. Portugal has been preparing to receive the Pope for months.
This visit has two components. The first is in response to the invitation of Portugal's president, Cavaco Silva, extended to the Pope in 2008. That's the political and diplomatic part. But the Portuguese Bishops' Conference also invited Benedict XVI to visit Fatima. That's the pastoral part.
The Pope's schedule for the trip is packed. Benedict XVI will arrive in Lisbon on May 11th, where he'll celebrate a Mass at Commerce Square, famously known for the Terreiro de Paso.
When the preparations were underway, there was an idea for the Pope to visit the statue of Jesus Christ in Lisbon. But that was impossible with his schedule, so instead he'll celebrate a Mass near the statue, which is by the river.
One of the most anticipated meetings will take place on the 12th in Lisbon. That's when Benedict XVI will meet with Portuguese intellectuals at the Cultural Center in Belém.
This Pope is without a doubt an intellectual. He's always been close to the classroom. That's why for him this is an important meeting, an opportunity for him to exchange ideas. So it's only fitting for him to get together in Lisbon with students because the future is in their hands. I think the Pope will talk to them about topics he's addressed with other intellectuals, religious and social themes, values the Church has always defended that are human values and therefore Christian values, like the importance of life from the moment of conception to natural death, and the family as the main structure of society.
Benedict XVI will also visit the shrine in Fatima on May 13th, the Virgin's feast day and the 93rd anniversary since the apparitions. He will visit the Chapel of Apparitions and will meet with priests and religious. He will preside over the blessing of the torches and meet with the bishops of Portugal. This will be Benedict XVI's first visit to Portugal, a trip his predecessor, John Paul II, made on 2 occasions. The first time in 1982 to thank the Virgin for saving his life after an assassination attempt, and the second time in the year 2000 for the beatification of Jacinta and Francisco, the 2 children shepherds who reported the apparitions. John Paul II's trips to Portugal are still in the hearts of many.
I remember John Paul II's visit to Lisbon. I was at the event where he met with young people at the football stadium in Lisbon. Even though so much time has gone by, I still remember that moment clearly.
Benedict XVI will celebrate a Mass in Porto on May 14th, his last day in the country, before returning to the Eternal City, a trip expected to be truly memorable.
The Pope's visit to Portugal will be the 5th papal visit to the country in the history of the Church. Pope Paul VI was the first pope to visit Portugal back in 1967. Reporting from Rome, I'm Marissa Cabrera.
Coming up later on in the show, we'll get the story behind Fatima and why millions make pilgrimages there every year.
But stay tuned when Currents continues. The day's headlines, including President Obama announcing his latest nominee to the Supreme Court.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up just a bit later, we'll talk to a Fatima expert ahead of the Pope's trip to Portugal.
But first, let's check today's headlines. President Obama today announced his nomination of U.S. Solicitor General Elena Kagan to the Supreme Court. If confirmed, she would be the fourth woman to serve on the nation's high court and would leave the court with no Protestant justices. Kagan and two current justices are Jewish. There are 6 others on the court, and they are all Catholic. So who exactly is Elena Kagan? Well, we find out more about her and her life now from CNN's Sandra Endo in Washington.
Calling her a trailblazing leader and a consensus builder, President Obama nominated Solicitor General Elena Kagan to the Supreme Court. He not only praised her legal mind, but her philosophy.
Elena is respected and admired not just for her intellect and record of achievement, but also for her temperament, her openness to a broad array of viewpoints, understanding before disagreeing.
The court is an extraordinary institution in the work it does and in the work it can do for the American people.
The 50-year-old former Harvard Law School dean was the only non-judge known to have been under consideration to replace retiring Justice John Paul Stevens. She would be the youngest justice on the bench, and given her lack of judicial history, she remains a question mark to many on the left and the right.
Abortion, affirmative action, church-state issues. She has never written or spoken on those issues, and you can assume, based on the fact that she's a Democrat, where she might go.
The White House is hoping the confirmation process will go as smoothly as when she became Solicitor General. But already senators say they'll take a hard look at her record, since this is a lifetime appointment.
That's Sandra Endo reporting. One national Catholic group, Catholic Families for America, came out in opposition to the Kagan nomination, citing concerns about where she may stand on such issues as same-sex marriage and abortion. Well, on to another courtroom now, where an atheist group lost their bid to have God removed from the presidential oath of office. The group, led by atheist Michael Newdow, filed suit to remove "So Help Me God" from the end of the oath, and also to take the axe to the invocation and benediction prayers during the presidential inauguration ceremony. Well, a 3-judge panel on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Washington, D.C. Circuit ruled against the group, saying it's up to the president or president-elect to choose what to include in the ceremony and not the courts. Reforming the immigration system does not mean amnesty. That from Salt Lake City Bishop John C. Wester this weekend. In an interview with the publication Our Sunday Visitor, Wester said the U.S. Bishops' Conference supports the right of the country to control its borders, but that immigration reform must also respect the dignity of immigrants. Bishop Wester said his comments are in response to claims that the bishops do not respect the rule of law.
Pope Benedict met with Belgian bishops this weekend, 2 weeks after accepting the resignation of another Belgian bishop in connection with the sex abuse scandal. Reports say the Pope told the bishops the church in their country has been put to the trial by sin, but also encouraged them to find new courage and strength to live a holy life. Bishop Roger Van Hillieu of Bruges resigned last month after admitting he sexually abused a boy. And finally, the Church of England is one step closer to possibly allowing women to serve as bishops. The Anglican body released draft legislation over the weekend that would allow the General Synod to make a provision enabling a woman to be consecrated to the office of bishop. The legislation will be debated in July. The largest Anglican body in the United States, the Episcopal Church, already allows women to serve as bishops.
Stay tuned, there's much more currents coming up. Just ahead, what's the big secret? We'll get the story behind the Fatima revelations. Welcome back as we continue our special preview of the Pope's trip to Portugal this week and his visit to one of the most sacred places in the Catholic world, Fatima. It's a place that attracts millions of faithful every year. And to understand why, you really need to understand the remarkable story behind Fatima, a story of great wonder and great faith, as we hear from Marissa Cabrera.
Portugal, 1917. 3 shepherds from the small town of Cova da Iria claimed they saw the Virgin. Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco would be known throughout history as the 3 shepherds who reported the apparitions.
The apparitions of Fatima took place during the period of persecution of the church, because at that time any public act of faith was prohibited. It was May 13th, 1917.
From that day until October 13th, 1917, the Virgin reportedly appeared to the three children on the 13th day of each month. They claimed the Virgin left them 3 secrets. The secrets would later become part of the Church's history and world history. That's how the devotion of the Virgin of Fatima started, one of the few apparitions of the Virgin recognized by the Vatican.
John Paul II called it the most prophetic appearance of the 20th century because the Blessed Mother brought a message of conversion, of penance and reparation.
From the beginning, the appearances garnered the attention of the curious and faithful. Many thought the 3 children were lying, so the shepherds were put to the test. They were detained in a dungeon, and the only way they would be set free is if they said they made up the whole story. But despite threats, they maintained their innocence.
The 3 shepherds were taken to jail. They were arrested because they broke a local law, but in the end, the apparitions were stronger.
They suffered tremendous abuse by the state. During the beatification of Jacinta and Francisco, John Paul II, at the beatification, spoke of the martyrdom suffered by the shepherds who testified to the greatness of their faith.
2 shepherds died young, just as the Virgin told them they would. Francisco died at the age of 11, and Jacinta died when she was 9 from the Spanish flu that affected Portugal. Lucia became a nun, and she reported seeing the Virgin another 4 times. Sister Lucia died at the Carmel of St. Teresa Convent in Coimbra, Portugal, 5 years ago. Meanwhile, the shrine that was built in Fatima has turned into one of the most visited in all of Europe. More than 5 million pilgrims visit and follow Jacinta, Francisco, and Lucia's footsteps. John Paul II had a special bond with Fatima. It all started when he survived an assassination attempt on May 13, 1981. The following year, he visited the shrine to thank the Virgin for protecting his life. As a gift to the Virgin, he left her the bullet and his cardinal ring. But that wouldn't be John Paul's final visit. In the year 2000, he returned to Fatima to beatify Jacinto and Francisca.
I especially remember that trip. John Paul II looked like a young kid. He was very happy and joyful. It was as if he were saying, "Finally, I've done what I had to do. This is what I've been waiting for." The Pope's joy expressed after the beatification of the 2 shepherds moved me. Fatima's message encourages people to regain their faith. It encourages conversion, to see the significance of the Eucharist, and overall to go back to being men and women of prayer.
Now, 93 years after the apparitions of the Virgin in the town of Cova da Iria, the Virgin of Fatima maintains a strong presence in all of Portugal. That's why Benedict XVI will celebrate his first visit to the country on the 10th anniversary of the beatification of Jacinta and Francisco.
Now, beyond what is known about Fatima, part of the fascination over the years has been over what is unknown.
Well, this is true. When Mary appeared to the 3 children, she reportedly left them 3 secrets. What were they, and what was their meaning for the world? Once again, Marissa Cabrera picks up the story.
On May 13, 1917, the Virgin appeared in the Portuguese town of Cova de Iria. 10-year-old Lucia, 9-year-old Francisco, and 7-year-old Jacinta reported the apparition. More apparitions would take place on the 13th day of every month until October 13, 1917. Reportedly, Francisco never saw the Virgin but was able to hear her. Jacinta, on the other hand, was able to see and hear her but couldn't communicate with her. Meanwhile, Lucia was the custodian of the Virgin's secrets. Over time, the Virgin offered several messages.
Mary called people to pray, to make sacrifices, and she told the little shepherds to spread around the world the message of reconciliation with God through Jesus.
The message from Our Lady would be known as Fatima's 3 secrets. Years later, those secrets would be revealed. During the first apparition, the shepherds got a glimpse of hell.
The vision of hell is not necessarily the typical one as a place full of flames. Instead, it's the terrifying reality of complete separation from God, which leads man to utter despair.
According to the shepherd's story, the vision lasted for only a few moments, but it was terrifying. They say the Virgin told them that they had to spread the devotion of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That's why in 1931, Pius XI consecrated Portugal to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Pius XII did the same in 1942, and so did John Paul II in 1982. Russia was also consecrated on that day. The second secret makes a reference to peace. The message talked about the end of World War I and also the arrival of a second world war if the world did not convert.
With the consecration, the Blessed Mother wanted to combat atheism and the Marxist-Leninist ideology that caused so much harm to humanity and Christian faith.
For many years, Fatima's third secret stayed a secret. Sister Lucia documented it, but the secret wasn't revealed until the year 2000 during the beatification of Jacinta and Francisco.
The third part of Fatima's secret was about a vision the shepherds had about a bishop dressed in white who was mistreated, who they wanted to kill. That was the vision. The Pope was John Paul II. Fatima's mystery became John Paul II's mystery. One hand pulled the trigger, and another hand, the hand of a mother, deflected the bullet. The dying Pope stood at the gates of death. John Paul II was absolutely convinced that it was Our Lady of Fatima who saved his life on May 13, 1981.
Despite trained terrorist Aliaca's perfect aim, Pope John Paul II survived the assassination attempt. It's said that Aliaca didn't miss the shot, rather chose the wrong day to pull the trigger. That day was May 13, 1981, the 64th anniversary of the first apparition of the Virgin of Fatima.
On May 13th of this year, Pope Benedict XVI will celebrate the 93rd year anniversary of the first apparition in Fatima at the shrine with a large mass. His trip to Portugal will start May 11th in the city of Lisbon and end in the city of Porto May 14th. Reporting from Rome, I'm Marissa Cabrera.
Well, Fatima is clearly a place of both power and mystery. When we return, we'll be joined by an expert who can shed some light on that mystery.
You'll have a preview of what we can expect in the days to come, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, the Pope's visit to Portugal is full of history and full of meaning, and we're fortunate to have someone joining us now for this journey who can help put all of that into context.
He's Father Andrew Apostoli from the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal and a leading authority on Fatima. He'll be with us for the next 2 days, and he's with us tonight to help set the stage. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Francesca and Matt. I've never been on Currents before, so it's a pleasure.
Well, we welcome you, and we also are looking forward to hearing what you have to say and to share about Fatima. The Pope is spending the week there. Tell us what the significance is of Fatima for those who may not know.
All right. Well, I've just finished writing a book on Fatima, which will be coming out later on this year. Pope John Paul II, I think, said it so well when he said, the message of Fatima is more important now, and he said this in 1981 after he had been shot. He said, the message of Fatima is more important now than it was even in 1917. And he said, at Fatima, Our Lady summed up the entire 20th century, all the major events that would happen, the wars. She spoke about 2 world wars. She spoke about communism and all the things that the spread of communism would bring, wars, persecution of the church, the Holy Father suffering, and so on. And I think that Pope Benedict shares that same vision. They both worked very closely together, as you know, when it came to doing the consecration, particularly with regard to the secrets, the so-called third secret, especially. Pope Benedict was very, very involved in that, and he recognizes very clearly the importance of this message for the church today. And I think you're going to see that coming out as he visits Portugal.
Yeah. Well, and as we talked about a little earlier in the show, I mean, Fatima is, of course, kind of the centerpiece of this trip to Portugal, but it's not the only thing that the Pope will be doing there in Portugal as he's on this trip. I mean, there are going to be other stops along the way, a lot of other things that he'll be doing, other masses to be held, and other events as well. And with the political climate, I mean, we talked about this late last week, that the political climate in Portugal is something to kind of be contended with from a Catholic perspective right now, because there are about 90% of the people in Portugal who profess the Catholic faith, but the government is secular, and the abortion was legalized, I believe, in 2007 in Portugal. There's a same-sex marriage bill now, which is up for possibly the president's signature. He's got to decide whether or not to do that here in the next couple of days. So is it important right now and significant, do you think, with that current political climate, that Pope Benedict is going now not only to Fatima, but making a trip to Portugal, making several stops there? Do you think he's going to send some sort of message to kind of maybe, from the Catholic perspective, get back on the right track?
I think so. He's going to tell them, you know, get with the program and, you know, to support the church and her teachings. I believe that when the abortion bill passed, the bishops did not put up a major opposition to it, if I remember correctly. And you know, maybe they thought it would never pass, but it did. I mean, if you don't get everybody out there to vote against it, you know, these kind of things will happen. But I'm sure he's concerned about that. It's another example of secularism entering into what have been formerly very strongly Catholic countries. But I think, I also think that, you know, the people have it in their hearts. The people are strongly with the faith, but the government, as you mentioned, somewhat anti-clerical and
plays a part in that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. But at the time of the apparitions, the government in Portugal was Masons, made up of Masons, and they had said in 1912, I think it was, the president at the time, he issued a statement. He said, in 2 generations, Catholicism will be completely forgotten in Portugal.
Interesting.
It hasn't happened. Our Lady had something to do with
Sure.
making sure that didn't happen.
And we will continue to discuss Fatima and the Pope's trip to Portugal throughout this week, and we very much appreciate you being here, Father Andrew. We appreciate
so glad to have you
your
here.
time on Currents today.
All right, well, that will do it. Now, coming up tomorrow, we begin our special coverage of the Pope's trip. Father Andrew will be here to guide us along as well. Remember, in addition to following us over at our website, it's currentsny.net, you can also catch up with us on Twitter, and you can become our fan on Facebook as well. Check it out. Until tomorrow, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.